This is lesson number 1 for Prep Stats. We're going to go over the answers to the backside, but first you have some notes. First of all, individuals. Persons or things described in a set of data. Those individual things could be a person's height, a person's weight. They could be the age of a car, the number of miles per gallon in a car, things like that. Now, the variable is any kind of attribute for the individuals that varies. And we're talking about between individuals. So from individual to individual, for example, height varies. And there are basically two kinds of variables we talk about in statistics. There are categorical variables, things that are labeled, things like colors. How many people wore a red shirt today? How many people wore a blue shirt today? And then there's quantitative numbers. Those are things that we would measure with a ruler, things we could measure with a stopwatch. In other words, they're things that make sense to average or find an average for. So under categorical, really would make sense to average the number of people that have a red shirt. They're just the number of people that have a red shirt. But for quantitative, a number that makes sense would be like height. What's the average height, for example, in the NBA or something like that? And then we have these tables. Frequency tables are going to show counts. And when you hear the word relative frequency, all that means that they've turned the counts into percentages. So on an application, what are my classmates like? On the first day of a statistics course, the instructor gave all 40 students in the class a survey. The table below shows data from the first 4 students on the class roster. Okay, so those are the individuals, right? It says identify the individuals and variables in this data set. Classify each variable as categorical or quantitative. Okay, so we said these are the individuals here. The individuals are the students in the class. Individual students. And the variables are these different traits that they have. So, for example, it lists gender, it lists GPA, pulse rate, how fast your heart's going, etc. Okay, now let's classify these variables. Okay, so first of all, gender. Is gender numerical or categorical? Does it make sense to average gender? No, it doesn't. So gender is categorical. Class, that's also categorical. GPA, does it make sense to average GPA? Well, of course it does. I mean, GPA is an average to begin with. So, of course, we could average that. So that makes it quantitative. Your pulse rate is a number. So that makes sense. We could call that quantitative as well. Your dominant hand is categorical. Children in the family is quantitative. We could get the average number of children in a family. Homework. Now, if you look at the way it's listed, from 0 to 14 or from 15 to 29, although time is in general quantitative, the way that they've set these up as intervals makes it categorical. Sleep is quantitative, and having a smartphone is categorical. It's one or the other. Now, here are the ages of the 40 students in the class. Summarize the age distribution with a frequency table and a relative frequency table. So what we could do is we could set up a table that has age, frequency, and relative frequency. So 3 rows. And if we look through this table, we will soon discover there are only 5 different unique ages. There's 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 16, 17, and 18. Now, by going one at a time, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, and counting up each of the ages, you will find that there are 5 14-year-olds, 4 15-year-olds, 9 16-year-olds, a staggering 17 17-year-olds, and 5 18-year-olds. Now, the question is, what is the relative frequency? I'm looking for my calculator. Here we go. Okay, so how many total students in the class? It told me in the problem there are 40. So we just take each of these numbers. 5 divided by 40 is 0.125, or 12.5%. Remember, to take a decimal and to turn it into a percent, you move the decimal 2 places to the right. Okay, 4 out of 40, that's an easy one. That's 10%. Now, would it be okay to just write these as decimals? Yes, it would be. Even though we said relative frequency is a percent, it's understood that we can convert back and forth. Just whatever you start, continue that way. If you're going to have percentages, just have percentages all the way through. 9 divided by 40, 0.225, or 22.5%. And 17 out of 40 is 42.5%. And finally, there's 5 out of 40. Again, already worked that out. It's 12.5%. Okay, there are the answers. We'll see you the next time.